Okay, thanks so much to Nalima and Jason. We're going to get started with our chairperson for the day, Craig Smith. He's the Chief Growth Officer for OuterBox. So please join me in welcoming Craig. Thank you. Clipper's right there.
Good morning, eTail. How are you doing this morning? Thanks for having me. I'm Craig Smith, the Chief Growth Officer of OuterBox. We are an e-commerce agency that helps brands grow faster through a variety of digital services and email, paid media, SEO, and conversion optimization. I've been in the space for about 20 years, and I'm going to maximize these 15 minutes giving you as many practical tips and guidelines to grow your e-commerce business faster starting next week. My goal for today is to provide actionable tactics. I'm not talking about transformational initiatives here. I'm talking about quick wins, things that you can go back to your business, go back to your dev team next week and integrate into your operation to drive growth. There's no need to take furious notes today. If you would like the deck, please just email me at craig@outerbox.com or come by the booth and I'd be happy to send you a copy. We're going to be talking about 3 core areas today. The first, data and intelligence, giving you the right insight you need to understand the dynamics of what's going on in your business and isolate which things you need to change. The second piece we're going to talk about is website experience. We're going to look at all the core templates in an e-commerce experience and provide a variety of guidelines. And I want you to look at your sites and isolate, hey, are we doing this? Figure out what things you're not doing and incorporate that into your planning for the next few quarters. And then we'll wrap up with search engine optimization, talking about a couple quick hitting tactics that you can bring to your business. Okay, all of this is around climbing the ladder, we call it. It's taking your brand from its current iteration to an iteration of market leadership. There's a variety of silos that you need to kind of isolate, and we're just going to talk about a few of these, but all of these are important. They span across data, they span across speed, they span across workflows and email and automation. All of these buckets are very, very important. You're going to want to look at and improve within your organization. Now, the first piece, data and intelligence. This is my first tip. The first tip is establish a weekly crawl of your website. Now, you probably aren't doing this today. Your SEO manager may be, but it's very, very important that each week or each month you crawl your site. Now, what does that mean? It means that you send a crawler throughout all of your links, all of your URLs to isolate what things are going wrong. For example, in this prospect that I just recently met with, they had 85,000 URLs with uppercase characters. And they also had 85,000 URLs with lowercase characters. Now that's not good. That's creating duplicate content. That's going to hurt them in Google. It's going to reduce their ability to rank for pages because they have duplicates. These are the types of things you want to figure out and find out by doing these weekly SEO crawls. You also want to do weekly monitoring and alerting on your speed. Speed, obviously, is the rising tide that lifts all boats. It's going to help your conversion rate. It's also going to help your organic search performance because Google's algorithm is now using a metric called Core Web Vitals to essentially understand and reward folks who deliver a faster experience. This is an example from a client report. We're tapping into APIs from Lighthouse and from other sources to give us a snapshot dashboard where we really can see how the site is performing on a weekly basis across a variety of templates. You also want to look at progression rates. This is the percentage of folks and how they flow through your merchandising shopping funnel each week. Now, you're going to have folks that come in through your homepage. You're going to have folks that come in through your category page. You're going to have folks that come in through your product page. They're all going to behave differently. The key is to figure out what is the percentage of people? What is your waterfall as they flow through on entries at different sections of the site? Really, really important. So those are 3 key things from a data perspective. Now let's move into the website experience. Now this is going to be a big dump of information. So again, get the deck if you would like to have it in your pocket. Looking at navigation, really, really important. Some key guidelines on navigation that you must embrace. First, have a sale category for each level. And you're looking right now at West Elm. They did a great job of their navigation. A lot of imagery, a lot of interaction points where users can connect with folks who are going to give them design help. But the sale category is really important because we're seeing a lot of folks in usability testing really gravitate towards the sale category in this age of inflation. You also want to have a hover delay of about 300 to 500 milliseconds. That's kind of the sweet spot for how a menu renders into a page. Look to talk to your developer development team and say, hey, what's our hover delay in our navigation? You want to have a view all option at all levels of the catalog. And here's another tidbit. If you are hiding your categories behind a shop dropdown, please don't do that. Please test an alternative presentation where you essentially unnest those categories from behind the shop blockage, I like to call it. Also want to have bestsellers, new products, make sure that's called out within your navigation, and also look to test mega menus. If you're just doing a straight dropdown with just your category names, that's like so 2010. You want to create a mega menu like you're seeing that West Elm has, make it more engaging, make it more merchandising centric. Looking at the homepage, and this is Guitar Center. When I was doing my research prior to this presentation, I was looking at homepages and I thought they did a really good job at hitting upon key elements such as dynamic sales. In the upper right-hand corner, they have a daily pick. Every 24 hours, they're refreshing that product and giving users essentially like a flash sale item that works really, really well in e-commerce merchandising. You also want to give simple paths to core categories. You can see the images below the primary real estate. They're showing pathways into the subcategories that users are going to care about with big images, can't be missed. You want to have a clear value proposition, and you also, if possible, want to incorporate social proof, like storytelling, into your homepage by showing some customer highlights or testimonials, those sorts of things. We like to deliver new visitor experiences using technology that says, hey, this is the first time here, show them this. Also IP geo-targeting and easy service paths as well. Guitar Center did a great job of giving that live help at the top, showing the person's face, giving a quick phone number, really, really important. Search. If you don't know, site search sessions typically convert 3 times the level of navigation. So it's extremely important to try to drive people into site search. Some things to consider: relevant auto-completes on misspellings. If I'm misspelling furniture, you got to make sure that your site search tool still renders furniture suggestions. You also want to make sure your exact searches are flawless. This is when someone searches a product number or an exact product title. You have to make sure that it's rendering perfectly. You also want to enable symptom queries. And the example I used for symptom queries at Dick's Sporting Goods was help my baseball swing. Even though they didn't have a product that was an exact match for that, the system was intelligent enough where it rendered all of these baseball items that are going to help my baseball swing. This is showing that Dick's is very effective at what's called a symptom query. Some other types of queries you want to associate into your search is compatibility. For example, USB Mac Air adapter, non-product search queries as well, such as returns and order tracking. So just some tidbits from a search perspective. Now, moving on to the PLP, and Williams and Sonoma, I thought, did a very good job of having all of the filtering capabilities at the top, but they also did a really good job of what I call the essentials. Now, what are the essentials? Within your product grid, you want to have your price, your title, your thumbnail, your variations, and when possible, your reviews. You want to have multi-options on the same filter. So if someone's sorting by color and they search red and blue, you want to make sure that your search tool is giving them the ability to have both in the same presentation. You also want to use product flags. So things like new to the business, or bestsellers, editor's choice, clearance, they're called product flags. And you can have a greater propensity for your user to click on things when you show the product flags. So if you're not using product flags, definitely recommend testing them. Also, in doing usability testing, we see that users don't like to have multiple variations across multiple, we'll call it product presentations. Like, for example, if you have one sweater and 6 different colors, it should all be in one product listing in the merchandising grid versus many. And also, from the 2 more pieces here that are really important for mobile experience, number 1, load an optimal product list. This is approximately 15 to 30 products are ideal in a mobile experience, and use the load more button. Don't use the infinite scroll where people just keep scrolling. They get kind of lost in that loop. And the last piece is returning users back to the same place they were. So imagine you're shopping, you're going through 200 products, you look at a product page, you go back, you should be anchored back to where you were versus going all the way back to the top of the product listing page. So a couple tidbits to go back, and really important usability factors within the product listing page. Next is the PDP. Ironically, I picked Lowe's. I thought it was a great PDP. Some core things to consider within your PDP. Number 1, estimated shipping and value prop in close proximity to the call to action. The call to action obviously is the add to cart. You want to, in that viewing pane, right by the add to cart button, you want to answer the core questions users have in their mind. Returns, shipping, guarantees, price. So in that viewing pane, you want to have your value propositions there. You also want to have recently viewed items below the fold, price per unit when helpful for the customer. So if you're selling groceries, for example, and if you're Costco and you have a 48 pack of Coke Zero, you want to tell the user, hey, this is 67 cents per can. Make it easy for them. Don't make them think about the pricing. Some other things here that really make sense, urgency messaging. Here you can synchronize with your inventory. When inventory levels go below a certain threshold, tell the user only 6 in stock. That's really going to help your add to cart ratio, the percentage of people that see a product to add to cart. You can test vertically collapsed product pages versus one long page, as well as make sure you have a clear indication of savings. Looking at the cart, here's Crate and Barrel. You want to have your full order cost and estimate in the cart. You also want to have a save for later option. Super, super important. Users are finding your product via mobile. Give them the ability to come back to the session at a later time very easily. Some other things, text and imagery for trust, security, and value prop. I think Crate and Barrel did a great job of that below the algorithmic merchandising, as mentioned there. And you also want to have threshold indicators, visual threshold indicators. If you have a free shipping threshold of, hey, over $50, make sure it's very evident to the user how many more, with a visual indicator, how much more they need to add to cart to get the free shipping promotion. And then on checkout, the most important section of your site, there's some platforms limit the ability of what you can change, but the first thing you want to do is make sure you have fully automatic address lookup, and that's what Wayfair is doing here. I type my address in, and boom, it comes down with the associated addresses within the database. You also want to use LUN validation, and not many brands do this. What LUN validation is, it's essentially real-time error messaging on a credit card number. So when I'm typing in a credit card number, the system can immediately see when the digits don't match the digits of a typical credit card, and they'll immediately alert the user versus having the user have to put it all in, submit it, and then get an error message on the page load. That frequently leads to abandonment. Some other things to consider, how prominent is your guest checkout? It needs to be front and center for new users. You want to show cutoff time for shipping countdowns. You want to give users the ability to edit at the review step. And you also want to have a back button. When someone clicks back on an accordion checkout, which like steps on one page, you don't want to send them back to the cart. You want to send them back to the previous step in the accordion checkout. And then some other things, avoid apply buttons and some things regarding uncommon inputs. Personalization, obviously a big topic. This is just a scenario of pre-purchase and post-purchase personalization scenarios. I'm not going to go into detail, but again, if you get the deck, you can learn more about these types of things. And it all lends itself to email automation. This is what I call the table stakes for e-commerce email automations. If you're not leveraging browse abandonment, recs, cart abandonment, checkout abandonment, review requests, upsell, cross-sells, VIPs, loyalty, etc., winbacks, this is what you need to have. Use one of the many email vendors to construct these, we'll call them automations in your business. And then wrapping up here on SEO, some quick tidbits on SEO. The first thing is expand your category pages with content. Do not just leave the traditional merchandising grid that everybody has. You likely have the ability to add incremental content below the grid. What this does, it serves what Google is looking for. If you read Google's guidelines, they say it all the time, EAT, expertise, authority, and trust. Now, how do you gain that in an e-commerce page? You add content. In this example with an OuterBox customer, we're putting in FAQs, we're putting in additional information about the product, we're expanding out the content below the grid so that if you took the products out, the page would still have value. That's kind of a litmus test that we utilize when looking at category pages. You also want to reverse engineer the SERPs. Now, we have technology that does this, but if I'm searching the term mattress, I want to know who on page one, how many words do they have on their page? How many times are they saying mattress? How many links are pointing into their site? How many links from that page are pointing to other pages in the site? So we reverse engineer the SERPs, do some detective work to kind of figure out what's working really well for these brands so we can leverage that in our strategic planning as it relates to our SEO efforts. You also want to build topical relevance. We talked about answering questions. The majority of Google queries are questions, about 65% if I recall. And they're 3 to 5 words. Now you have to go and look at your product categories and find out the questions that folks are asking. This is a tool called Answer the Public. It helps, it's free, it does that. And then embed that into your descriptions, embed that into your category pages and FAQs. It's really gonna help, again, with Google's EAT framework. And then lastly, this was a conversation I had last week with a prospect, image weight. You have a tremendous opportunity to reduce image weight on your pages. This example with this prospect, they were using JPEG images. JPEG images are from an old format. Change the old formats to the new formats. In this example, the prospect was able to save 86% of image weight by taking their JPEGs to AVIF images. Okay, so I ran through a lot there in 15 minutes. Thank you for the time. We're gonna have a great day of speakers. I'm gonna help moderate the day. If you would like a copy of this, definitely come by the booth, 519. And also, we're giving free diagnostic reviews. So if you'd like any pieces of your site, SEO, email, or conversion optimization looked at, we'd be happy to do a complimentary review of your business, give you a deliverable that will outline a framework of changes to embrace.